What's up guys, Sarus here, and welcome to a DIY of how to build your own steampunk hat. And Lolita too, because some of these look a little more Lolita than steampunk, but we'll get into that later. Okay, so the first thing you're going to need is a hot glue gun. Now this hot glue gun actually is one of the cooler temperature ones, that way you don't burn yourself as often and the plastic doesn't get as hot. Also, it's got the rubber tip on it to make it so that you don't burn yourself even more, because trust me, I've done that myself, and it's a real bitch. And if you don't want to do it, make sure you get one of those with the rubber tool on it. Also, it's already been plugged in for a little bit, so it's nice and warmed up and ready to go. Okay, so another thing you're going to need is, of course, the hats. Now, I actually get these hats at Joann's. They're really nice, they're cute. These are 4.5-inch brims. They're small, they're primarily meant for dolls, but with the kind of Lolita and steampunk hats that you see out there for cosplay, a lot of them are really small hats, and these are the perfect size. Now you can also get onto the Joann's website and get ones that are actually 5.5-inch brims. They're just a little bigger, they look a little more top hat-ish, a little less doll, a little more actual cosplay. So if you want to go for that, you can get onto the Joann's website and buy them there. They also make much smaller ones, and they make little witch hats as well. And if you like this video, I am more than willing to show you how to make those little steampunk Lolita witch hats, along with other size hats as well, and ones for different seasons and special events. But for this episode, we are actually going to be doing a winter hat, because where I live in Alaska, it's still fucking cold. So we have Christmas hats, because for us, Christmas lasts until about July. Yay us! Okay, so now that we got our hat, we've got our glue gun. We're also going to need extra things of glue, and I buy these little jars at craft stores as well. They're great for just holding things, and I absolutely love them. Plus, they're adorable and they're designed really nicely. So, we're also going to need a lot of these little snowflake things. Now, you can get these at different craft stores as well. Everything that I am going to show you, you can get it any craft store pretty much, a Hobby Lobby, Joann's, Michael's, whatever you've got, all this stuff can primarily be found there. So don't really worry about having to go to any particular store, except for the hats. These are kind of a Joann's exclusive thing. I've never found them at Michael's or any other store. I've never been to a Hobby Lobby though, so they might be there, but as far as I know, Joann's is the only one that sells them to the public. The actual company that makes these, they don't sell them direct. You have to be like a business owner in order to get them directly and pretty much put out the middleman. But yeah, these little snowflakes are actually really cool. They've got a little sparkle to them, not a whole lot. It's kind of like that iridescent sparkle, if you can see, just like that. There we go. And I always keep them in my little jar here as well. And they get a bunch of them in like one little stick. You get a bunch of these things. So that's just like 2 sticks worth. So trust me, they're gonna last you a long time. Also, I like using little ornament balls. Now, if you ever go to a craft store, you'll see these ornament balls. They come in like a bushel of like anywhere from 8 to a dozen. And there's like different colors, but they all kind of match. They've got blue, purple, pink, green, just any color you can possibly think. For this one, we're going to be using the pink ones. Now, we've got one that's kind of a creamish color. It's very, it's got that frosted look to it, and these two are more of a peach and also kind of a really light pink. So those are going to be used as well. We also have a green one just to set it off, just to give it a little extra splash of color. We also have these really small ones that you can find at a craft store as well. This one happens to be a much darker pink, almost kind of a lavender. But we're also going to be using a poinsettia. Now, I know this poinsettia looks big, but trust me, it's going to want to be big, because as we all know, sometimes small hats have very big things on them. So trust me, this poinsettia is definitely going to work. You're also going to need some tools. Now, these are just any basic tools that you can get at a craft store, and usually you're just going to have to go into the beading section to get them. Now, why do you need tools? Well, for one thing, you're going to need tools in order to be able to cut wires, because a lot of silk flowers and a lot of these have wires on them, and just regular scissors aren't going to do it. They can, but you have a chance of breaking your scissors, and we don't want that. You can use the scissors for various other things in your arts and crafts. So getting just little, needle nose pliers, definite wire cutters of different sorts, and also to be able to hold things while you're gluing, that way you don't have a chance of burning yourself, is also a plus. Okay, so the next thing you're gonna want is foliage, because you're always gonna want a little something to really give it that extra color. And these are absolutely perfect for them. As you can see, the leaves themselves are kind of see-through because they're made out of netting. They have sparkles along with them as well, which does definitely hold up with our Christmas theme. They also come with these really nice berries, which will really add a lot of splash of color to them. And optionally, you know, some people like using feathers. Now, I've got these two types of feathers right here. I've got some red feathers that have bells inside of them, and these white ones that also have bells, but not all of them do. Some of these are also stick feathers as well, so a little bit of variety. You do want to keep to a color scheme, in my opinion, which is what I like doing. But during the springtime, you can usually, you know, get out there and really do a bunch more when it comes to color variation. But during the winter, keeping to a specific scheme always makes for a good hat. And of course, last but not least, your two most important things. First one is embellishments. And I'm gonna have to move a few things out of the way just because I've got a few boxes. Now, I have got a couple boxes worth of embellishments over here that you guys are definitely going to want to take a look at, and I just moved my camera. I apologize. Now, as you can see, we've got several different kinds of embellishments that you can get at almost any craft store. We've got metal beads, we've got different kinds of pennants, just pretty much odds and ends of all kinds. And the more you can get, especially on sale, the more better off you're going to be. Now, I've also got clock parts, because we all know that is a big staple of steampunk. Now, some of these aren't even actually really real clock parts. As you can see, these you can actually find in a bead section in most craft stores. Some of these, though, I've had to get offline, like this one, which is an actual real clock face. We've got some hands here. Some of them are arts and craftsy, others are real. We've got these name little doodads right here that you can use if you want to put your initials or something. Like I said, we just got a bunch of stuff. The easiest place to get these cogs, though, is going onto eBay. That's where I always get mine, and I've gotten a lot of them, as you can see. And you can even get these pieces right here. Now, sometimes you'll see a little red or blue little shiny pieces inside of these. Those are actually rubies and sapphires, and clock users use these in order to help the gears turn a lot smoother so that they don't end up destroying the metal or the gears themselves. They add a really great little touch to your pieces, so definitely if you find an old watch you want to tear apart, make sure you keep the gems inside of them. It really does add a nice accent to it. And of course, one would be considered without adding just a little extra doodads here and there. And last but not least, we have the ribbons. Now, I actually myself do have quite a few different ribbon piece choices, and for winter I like to try and stick with some very, very nice really nice colored ones. So for this episode, we're going to be using this kind of a ribbon. As you can see, it's a cream color, or more of a champagne, I think. A champagne color with some sparkle to it, but also is very, very nicely accented. And that's actually going to go over something. Now, because it's sheer, it's going to be going over this nice gold. And as you can see, when the two are going to be put together, it's going to look very, very elegant. And in my opinion, that is very Christmassy right there. Now, you can also use these hats for weddings as well, so this would be perfect hat for a wedding. I'll even teach you guys how to make wedding veils if you do like this video and ask for it. All right, but now that we have everything that we need, let's get started. Oh, you're also going to need a pair of good scissors too, and you can get these at any other craft stores as well. Just make sure that they stay nice and sharp, but don't cut yourself, so be careful. Also, if you're going to have kids working on this, adult supervision is absolutely required, especially with a hot glue gun, especially with tools, with wiring, and with scissors. We don't want little hands getting hurt, because that would be a no-no. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to measure out the amount of ribbon that we're going to need. Now, because we're using two different types of ribbon, we're actually not going to need two different sizes. So they're going to pretty much be the same size. Now, you can do the ribbon in two different ways. You can either glue the main part down completely and utterly, then put the other part over it, or you can just glue it down at the tips. Either way it works, but if you're gonna glue the whole thing, I would suggest fabric glue. And normally I would use that, but unfortunately I have no idea where my fabric glue is because I'm kind of in a transitional period with all of my stuff being moved around. So it kind of got lost. So we're just gonna have to work with what we got. And sometimes you do have to use alternatives in your arts and crafts, but that's the point of DIY, and that's also the point of steampunk. Everything's an alternative, and you can pretty much use whatever you want. So we're gonna use this ribbon right now. And the best way to do it is just to actually put it around the hat and figure out where you want it to cut. You always want just a tiny bit of overlap. Okay. Now that that ribbon's been cut, now we're going to cut the other ribbon. And we're just going to measure it up just like this. Okay, now the first thing we're going to do is we're going to put the ribbon on it. Now for this hat, we're actually going to put the flower on the side of the hat. So what we're going to want to do is put the ribbon around it and actually glue the ribbon to the side. That way you don't have any seams in the back. That way you don't see the seam itself, and it looks like as though it is one giant band. It's one giant band, which is a very important thing and really does add a nice finished look to your hat. Okay, so we're just going to take this glue right here, and what we're going to do is we're just going to kind of drag it along. The glue is going to dry really, really fast because this is one of those non-extreme heated glue sticks. So when it does dry and you layer it on just a tiny bit, just like that, it adds that seal to it. You just come and you just wrap your hat around, and you stick it, and it doesn't have to be 100% perfect here on the side. Because you're going to have the flower and other things covering it, no one's really going to be able to notice. So sometimes, you know, you make those little mistakes, but in the end, a mistake can always be repaired. And a mistake can always be fixed with the right embellishments and the right sized flowers. And trust me, I make a lot of mistakes whenever I make my hats. And I've been making hats for over 2 years. Just like that. And we're going to add just a tiny bit more glue just right here, just to give it a little extra. There we go. There. See, I'm even getting like glue on myself. At least it's not hardening as much, just because the glue isn't at an extreme heat like it would with an older one. Now I have an older hot glue gun that my mom had for like years and years before she had me, and it's one of the old school ones that just gets to like 400 degrees and it's just steaming hot, and it's not good to have around kids. So trust me, if you have kids, one of these low heat ones with the protection really gonna make your life a million times easier. Okay, now we're going to add the embellishment to it. So just put a little more glue right there, and then boom, 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 and there you go. And sometimes you do have to move it around just a tiny bit. Like I said, using fabric glue does make things a little easier, but because we don't have fabric glue right at this moment, we're gonna need to kind of alter it. We're gonna kind of need to use an alternative. So this is the best alternative. It's just to kind of see it as an eye. All right, nice and pretty. Look at that. Now that hat alone actually looks kind of nice itself, but we're definitely going to add more to it. So we're going to turn it around right to where you can see the seams. Now as you can see, yeah, it's a little ugly looking as of right now, but when you put a flower as big as this one over it, the seams completely and utterly disappear, and it really adds a nice touch to it. Now yeah, you're going to see a part of this, but at the same time we're going to be covering it up with other things, so you won't have to worry so much about it. But for initially, we are going to want to cut this a little bit. So what we're going to do is we're going to take one of these, and we're going to latch it onto here, pretty much exactly to where we want to cut. Let's say we're going to cut it, give it just a little bit of leeway, but I think right here would be a good idea. There we go. That looks brilliant. Now sometimes people actually do take these off and just layer them down as is. You can do that, but for a beginner, I would suggest keeping this on just to give you kind of a sense to help you really learn how the flowers work and how they're layered down. That way later on, you can take them off of the stems and layer them yourself individually. Sometimes it's easier, sometimes it's harder. It depends on what kind of flowers you're using. Poinsettias, they're a little easy, but again, for beginners, I would suggest keeping the stem on, just in case you're just starting out and you really don't know what you're doing. I know I had to do it the first Christmas I did it. Okay, so next thing we're going to do is we're going to add a little glue here at the rim of the hat, just like that. There we go. And then around here, and just stick it there. And sometimes you have to hold them depending on the flowers themselves, depending on how they laid down on the hat and whatnot. But as you can see, the flower is actually staying pretty well. And as we all know, these parts are actually the leaves of a poinsettia. The flowers themselves are the little parts in the very middle. The leaves are red, and yeah, those are the actual poinsettia leaves. I think it's kind of cool. Lessons for the day! The more you know. Okay, so as we can see, the glue's drying quite nicely. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is we're going to start messing with the leaves. Now you can do this one of two ways. You can either keep them on the stem or you can take them off. In my opinion, taking them off is a lot easier because it gives you a much freer range of where you want to put these. So the easiest thing to do, just slide them right off, because all these things they're just hooked onto sticks with little holes in the middle of them, so they just slide on and off easily, so you can pretty much adjust them to wherever you want. I'm going to cut these into individuals, because as you can see when they're together, they're just bundled up into these little tiny things. And you don't want them to be bundled up quite like that. You can in a hat, but when one like this, I would suggest having them more open. And the easiest way to do that is just to cut the stems. You can see they come in a thing of 3, so just cutting it or even ripping them apart actually helps as well. But for safety measures, we're just going to cut them. So 1, 2, and we're going to cut the little circle part off as well. 3. So you have 3 individual leaves right here. So now we got to figure out where to put them. In my opinion, I'm going to put mine right along here. Just like that. I think that'll look very nice. So we're going to add a little more glue. And yes, by the way, you're going to use a lot of glue when making these hats. I'm going to stick it, and like I said, you just kind of have to play around with it just to see where it fits, where it's nice. And also remember, these little extra things do help cover up seams and whatnot, so it is a bonus. I'm actually going to put a little glue on that right there. I'm going to press it down inside. There we go. You can also put the glue directly onto the leaf if you know exactly where you're going to be putting it. Just right there. And there we go. See? Not bad looking, if I do say so myself. I haven't really made a hat in a while though, so bear with me on this one. Okay, we're also going to use the remainder of these, so give me a second while I cut all these up and get them prepared. Okay, I'm not even going to worry about cutting this guy up, because he's going to be scrunched up like this when I put him inside the flower. If you really want to go for that steampunk look, remember, layering is the key, and putting things where they wouldn't normally go is also a good thing too. It really shows creativity. Now as you can see, the clear leaves are actually meshing with the poinsettia leaves as well, so it gives it an extra flair and a lot more depth to it. That way it doesn't seem as flat. Things actually do make it look bigger and make it look a little brighter at the same time. Now we're going to work on these, and I believe, if I'm not mistaken, I'm going to put these right here, just to give them a little more emphasis and make it look a little more 3D and give it just a little more oomph to it. Okay, and we're gonna set him down right in there. There we go. See, look at that hat. It's coming along very nicely, if I think so. Okay, we're also gonna use these. Now we're not gonna use very many, we're only gonna use one of them. And I think, yeah, we'll use this one. And we're just gonna use a little bit just for that extra dash. And we're gonna put him right along here. You know what? We'll actually use 2. We'll use 2 and we'll put them right along there. So what we're going to do is we're going to add the glue right along these edges. We're going to move the hat this way. We're going to lift up these leaves and we're going to gently place right there. And what we're actually going to do is, because there's enough glue on this, and because there's enough glue on this one, we're going to be adding more glue. Or we're not even going to need to add more glue, excuse me, because that's going to go right there. This way you can also move them a little bit. Now, of course, what we're going to need some ornaments. And we got these lovely little ornaments to choose from. I'm thinking that we're going to use this green one right here, because it's really going to pop against the red. So what we're going to do is we're going to take our little wire cutters, and we are going to cut the wire. Make sure this is properly disposed of so that it doesn't hurt anybody. Right? We're going to take our hot glue gun, and what I actually do is I just stick it straight into the hot glue gun. And then just, there we go. Nice and coated. And then we're going to take this, we're going to put it right here. There we go. course, you're going to always have to like adjust leaves every now and again just to make sure that things look exactly where they're supposed to be. Okay, and the last thing we're going to need is some kind of a small little bead embellishment. Now, you don't have to do all these embellishments if you don't want to. You can stop whenever you want. For me, though, I like to go big or go home. Now, because of this is much more of a Lolita hat than it really is a steampunk hat, we're not going to worry about cogs right now because that's a totally different lesson in and of itself. We're going to stick with some beads. Now, let's see what kind of beads would look absolutely beautiful on this hat. I actually do have these heart and snowflake chain beads right here. You can tell they also come in different colors as well. But because it's Christmas, I think I'm going to stick with the more clear iridescent ones. Just look like this. Now you can do these several different ways. You can even actually put holes inside your brim hat and have them hanging off, which I've done with a couple hats before in the past. Okay, we're just going to take one of these, and I think what we'll do is we'll just hook it up onto one of the leaves right here. First thing we're going to do is we're going to take the bead off, and we're going to take the little circle right here. We're just going to gently twist it until we poke through onto the other side. Just like that. Go. And then we're going to take the bead and we're going to put it right back on there. Just so that it's hanging off. We will put those together again. And voila, your very own hat. Now the last thing I actually forgot to tell you guys that you're going to need, you're going to need hair clips in order to keep this in your hair. Now these are actually my favorite ones to use. They're nice, they're easy, they're just little alligator clips, and their springs actually stay pretty well. And they do fairly well with hot glue, and I use them for all of my hats. I've never really had much of a problem with them. They also come in black, and some of them actually come in like a aged, like old bronze kind of a thing. Really gives it a steampunk look to it. But for this one, we're just going to use the basic silver ones that you can find at any craft store. So what you do is you turn your hat carefully upside down. And next you got to figure out exactly where you're going to put your clips. Now because this is a side hat, you also have to put into consideration that the side of the hat that's going to have all of the flowers and stuff, embellishments on it, it's going to be a lot heavier. So make sure that this part is held down very nicely. But at the same time, you're going to want this one with extra strength on it because it's going to have to compensate for the weight. So just take the glue, give it a nice thick layer of glue right on there. Now for me, I'm going to have it like this. So, sorry if this is off camera, my arm had to twist a certain way. There we go, because in this hat, I'm actually going to have the flowers on the left side of my head. So with it being on the left, so this is actually kind of like mirrored, unfortunately for you guys. But with it being on the left side of my head, I'm going to want the alligator clips to face the back this way. So these are in the front. And I give this one just a little extra glue because again, he's going to have to compensate. If you want to, you can just squeeze them down just a little bit just to make sure that the adhesive works very well with your felt. And the hot glue actually does work really well with the felt. And if you don't like something and you want to start over, it's also easy to take apart. Just remember, there might be some leftover residue glue when you're trying to take something apart. And the best way to get that extra glue off is just use pliers and just kind of pull it off yourself. These hats are pretty durable and actually can go through a lot and still come out unscathed, or to the most part in a way to where you can cover up all the mishaps and still be able to have a really nice hat. These are very good and well-made hats, and they do last for a long time. And voila! As you can see, your very own steampunk Christmas hat. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I know I enjoyed making it. I love making these hats. I've been making them for like 2 years now, and it was just something that I started doing my first winter in Alaska because I was so bored and I'd always wanted to, but I never really had the opportunity to do it. But with the boredom and not being able to go outside at all, they just kind of sprung up. And I make these for all the seasons, for different events, different styles, shapes, and sizes. So if you want to see more hats being made, hit that like button, subscribe for more of my videos, and leave a comment in the comment section down below. But as always, I'm Sarus Drake. I love each and every one of you, and I will talk and play for you guys in the next episode. Bye-bye! electricity goes to our guest. Our guest.